Perfect.
Uh,
Um, let's see. I have an update on the strike. Minor update.
please.
This
Yeah.
is SAG slash Actors Screen Actors Award strike against the rich and powerful. Um, Apparently Stephen Amell came out saying that he's actually against the strike.
Oh, fuck him.
I actually thought that he would be one of those people, and maybe I don't have all the facts. I didn't have enough time to fully read into the situation, but apparently Stephen Amell is like he's not happy about the strike. Although to be fair, I don't know if he's unhappy because hey, just meet our demands were reasonable, or oh yeah. So apparently he made that comment yesterday, and 5 hours ago he's trying to clarify. I support my union. I do. I stand with them. He said 5 hours ago. He walks back comments about strike. Yeah, the AV Club is reporting. He walks back his comment. Clip began airing about Arrow and Heel Star. Stephen Amell began asking about the ongoing strike while at a convention, with Stephen Amell claimed that he supports his union, but he does not support the idea of a strike, calling it myopic and reductive negotiating tactic. You know what? Yeah, no,
He
fuck Stephen Amell.
he is how do I say this? That is like saying, no, wait, stop saying Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. Like, shut up. That's not the no, that's not no. This is not the time to be what's the word? This is
Um,
not this is not the moment to be like, let's listen to both sides. Like, shut up. No, it's not the time. No. No.
No, yeah, full context. Yeah, so he walked back his statement. Like, yeah, no. So Stephen Amell, I was gonna say maybe it was taken out of context, but you know what, dude? You're 42. You lasted 8 seasons on a TV show. You're trained enough to make clear statements. If you don't like the fact that you guys have to strike, you can say it like that. I'm fucking smart enough to be like, hey, um, although I support my union and I support us striking, I hate that we have to strike in order to get fair compensation for our people. Like
I hate that
that,
they have to strike. I hate that they have to strike too, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna say it like that. So
yeah. Uh,
also let irony not be lost in this context. This is a man that for almost over 10 years and for several hundred episodes played the modern version of a Robin Hood-esque character that steals from the rich to give to the poor.
well,
Okay?
also, isn't Oliver Queen like basically Batman but less cool because he has like all the money?
Stephen Amell, you have failed this city and you have failed this union.
You Stephen Amell, you done fucked up. I don't think you're gonna get an invite to play Green Arrow ever again. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Heels isn't that
And
good of a show. I've seen it. Yeah.
yeah, Felicity is the best part of that show. Okay.
So
All right. Anyway, just a reminder: support the writers, support the actors, support the strike. They are doing they are doing the correct work,
if
and
you're
we'll
listening to
keep.
us on YouTube, there's a link below if you want to
Yeah,
support.
yeah. Thank you for adding that. And yeah, that's how we're gonna keep supporting. We're gonna keep talking about movies, but yeah, we're gonna keep vocally supporting the union and the strike. So yeah. And speaking of a writer that we just talked about recently, and we're gonna about talk about again. Ladybird time. You ready?
Sorry about Ladybird. Chema, hit the intro.
Thank you for welcoming us into your headphones. My name is Chema.
I am man in suit. I don't know. I tried something.
Reviewing Ladybird, and this is the rollback. Fly Away Home. A California high school student plans to escape from her family and small town by going to college in New York, much to the disapproval of wildly loving, deeply opinionated, and strong willed mother. So we have Lady Bird. This is the solo debut directing job by one Greta Gerwig. We just talked about her in the Barbie review because she also wrote and directed that. But this is her first solo directed movie that she wrote. It's based on her childhood. It's based on her adolescence, and it stars the impeccable, absolutely impeccable Saoirse Ronan Laurie Metcalf, Tracy Letts, Beanie Feldstein, Lucas Hedges, Timothy Chalamet, and a bunch of other colorful actors that round up the crew. So this is a small little movie that came out back in 2017. It swept critics. It is to this day the highest charting reviewed movie on Rotten Tomatoes. Over 400 reviews and with 99% approval. It got all the Oscar nominations. It won none of them, and which I still think is a fucking travesty. And this is still one of my favorite movies of the 2010s, probably in the top 5. I adore this movie, and I've been saying for years that you should watch it. And then finally we reviewed Barbie, and you're like, hey, this Greta Gerwig lady, she's pretty cool. And I was like, I've been here day one. I've been here day one. So
I'm
now,
a bandwagon. I'll admit it, I'm a bandwagon.
All right. So now we're here. We're going back. We're talking about Lady Bird. I'm a longtime fan. I watched it when it first came out. You just watched it. What did you think of Lady Bird?
I think it's funny. Like, one thing real quick. When you Google the synopsis, it's from the mother's point of view.
Oh yeah.
The synopsis when you Google it is: a nurse works tirelessly to keep her family afloat after her husband loses his job. She also maintains a turbulent bond with the teenage daughter, who, just like her, is loving, strong-willed, and deeply opinionated.
Yeah.
I just think like that's because it's funny. This is one of those movies where when you watch it, you're young and you side with Lady Bird. But the older you get, the more you're like on the side of the mom and the parents. It's one of those.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I saw a lot of my childhood in that, in like the family dynamic, the early 2000s. Like, she reminded me of my sisters because they were in high school at the time. Not as old, but. And then, the whole college thing, you want to move away. I have a niece right now who's like, I can't wait to turn 18 so I can move out and have my own apartment. And I'm like, how are you going to pay for it? And she's like, oh, I'll just get a job. I'm like, okay, how much do you think you're going to be making at this job? How many hours are you going to work? And it's that unfortunate, like, slap back of like, life don't work that way. But okay, so we'll dive into that as the movie goes along. But my first thoughts are, this movie is fucking relatable, even if you're a guy. There's like one particular scene that I think is exclusively like for mothers and daughters. Like,
yeah.
Like that strong connection. But most of this movie is pretty much very like neutral. Like, anyone can relate to a lot of this shit. Like, high school, butting heads with your parents, flaky friends, your best friend, you don't talk to them for a couple months and you guys apologize and you're right back to where you were. It's very reminiscent of youth. I can understand why you fell in love with it when you first saw it, and I can understand why it resonates with you even to this day. Like, very easily. It's very clear.
It still does, and I can't. It's really interesting because when I first watched it, when I first heard about it, because I heard about this when like the Oscar noms were coming out, and I was like, "What is this? I'll check this out." And I watched it and went like, "Okay, what? This is like." I read the synopsis and I watched the trailer, and I was like, "Okay, it's about a teenage girl in like a religious school, and it's about the relationship with her mom and first boyfriend." And I was like, what is this? Like, what? It's obviously not for me. Like, why is everyone loving this? And what am I gonna get from this? I'm stupid. Give her a machine gun, something my head is just thinking dumb shit. But then I watched it and I was in awe. I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. Greta mentioned that when she was shooting the movie, she wanted the movie to look like a memory. And I think that's just absolutely perfect because, like, you were watching this and it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like you're watching just real people just living their lives. It's pretty insane.
I'm looking at the nominees for that year, and it's unfortunate that it came out during the same year as The Shape of Water.
Yeah, Shape of Water and Get Out and a bunch of
Call Me
other
by
really
Your
good
Name.
movies. Yeah.
Like, there's so many good movies that came out that year.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that's not to lessen Lady Bird, not by any stretch. I've been thinking that we've been lacking a lot of like great modern day coming of age stories, because you always hear, what are the ones you normally hear? 13 Going on 30, Pretty in Pink, Clueless. Like, you always hear like that shit, right?
Yeah.
I feel like this is a legit modern day coming of age story. Granted, it's set in the early 2000s, but I still think it's a coming of age story and a good one at that.
Did it give you like those like not flashbacks, but did it remind you of what it was like to be alive at because like we watch movies about like the 80s or the 70s, and we're like, well, we weren't there. So like to us it feels like a like a movie. But to this, like there are a lot of scenes where I was like, oh my god, I remember what it was like to be like post 9/11, that like that
Yeah,
world. Like there's a scene where Ladybird is talking with Kyle, played by Timothy Chalamet, and he goes, you have a cell phone? No, it's like good. They're using they're using them to track us. Who is the government, man? They're gonna be like following us all the time. And like, remember when that was like the conspiracy theory,
and we
and then
all
we
just
just
learned to
turned
accept it.
and we just learned to accept it. Yeah,
Real
yeah.
quick, I want to shit on Timothy Chalamet for this one quick moment.
Okay.
You know how he plays Kyle?
Yeah. So
I
he
feel like
plays
that
like
is Timothy. I feel like that
that.
is him.
No, the
I will,
he
maybe I'm
plays like
wrong.
I feel like the most attuned he is to like his real life is like the character he did in Don't Look Up. Like I feel like that's the most Timmy he's ever been. In
Maybe it's
this
what.
one,
Hmm.
like I gotta say, like it's a compliment. He plays a douche really, really well. Like I feel like every girl that I know has dated a guy like this.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's it's pretty funny, and
It's
and yeah, as funny and like yeah, as an asshole, as much of an asshole as he is, and he contributes to the story and everything, he has some really good lines, like that line when they had sex for the first time, and she's so excited because he's like, oh my god, we lost our virginities to each other, and he goes like, no, I had sex before, even though he had like clearly said that he didn't. And then,
yeah.
and then, and then she goes, but you told me that you hadn't done it with anyone else. And then he goes like, no, I didn't lie. I haven't lied in 2 years. like you're a fucking asshole.
You know who
But
he
it's
reminds me
so
of?
funny.
You know
Yeah.
he reminds me of the kind of guy who would get like taken into the police station and be like, well, I mean, she was awake at first. She said it was okay. Like that's not how this works. That's not how life works, rich boy. Um,
Yeah.
Also, who the fuck's in Sacramento is a small town? It's not.
It's not? I have no idea.
Sacramento?
Yeah.
It's like a mid-size. It's like McAllen. It's not a small town. Let's see.
Um,
Sacramento.
I mean, it's like 500,000 people that live there.
It's bigger than fucking the valley in a smaller area. Yeah, Sacramento is not a small town. I'm sorry. Maybe by
It probably,
maybe by
yeah,
California standards.
it probably feels like a small town if you lived in it your entire life. Plus, it's like the town that you lived there, where you grew up. Like it kind of feels sometimes it feels restrictive. It kind of feels like you need to get away from that. And
That's fair. So let me ask you
yeah,
this then.
yeah,
I went to college at home, right? Like I lived
yeah,
at home with my parents. I knew the valley, grew up in the valley, born and raised and all that jazz. You pulled the ladybird. You left. You went out on your own. You no half-assing it. You were an adult and
yeah.
you went to school, away from home, away from your family. Did you feel any kind of connection? Like, what was that like for you? Like, did you see yourself in this story?
I saw myself in Christine and AKA Ladybird a lot, and not even in the leaving home for college way. I mean, of course, yes, but a lot of the conversations that she had with like her dad or with her mom, like I felt like I've had those exact same conversations. Like that moment when I don't know, when she's applying to schools and like she's kind of getting stressed and like maybe hides a little, like only trusts her dad in some parts. Um, there's a lot of moments that felt, yeah, very relatable and very stuff. The cataclysm, like the biggest moment to me in the movie is there's a moment when she's kind of trying dresses to go to prom, and she's talking with her mom a bit, and I feel like there's this ongoing thing with kids and their moms where like I feel like sometimes you try to talk to them the way you talk to friends, or like you're like you so sometimes get like a little self-detrimental or self-critical, and they don't take it as a joke. They take it as like completely serious, and it turns into a lecture. And yeah, and there's a moment in Ladybird where she's trying dresses and she kind of says it offhand. She goes like, I wish I could have what was it, like a body disease. What was it called,
Not probably dysmorphia.
yeah,
Anorexia.
yeah. So I wish I could have like that, an eating disorder, just so I could be like thinner. And like the mom doesn't take this joke, she takes it so seriously. And then we have like to me the killer line in this movie is that one where is that part where she goes like do you like me? And then the mom goes, of course I like you, you're my daughter, like of course I do, I love you, I want you to be, I want of course I love you. And she goes, but do you like me? And then the mom goes like, I just want you to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And then she goes, what if this is the best self? And it's a
Mhm.
very teenager line, but it's also a very human line. Like an adult hears that and goes like, come on, you're so young, like you don't, but to a teenager that's all they know, that's
Yeah.
all they know. And that lack of understanding, because adults forget, but kids do not forget. Okay,
Mhm.
so there's like a brokenness there that they cannot, they're trying to meet each other halfway and they can't, because there's so much space there. And there's also like a lot of trauma, both from Ladybird and the mom. Like there's a moment where like Ladybird has like a night out. She kisses a boy for the first time. She's so happy. She's like in the best moment of her life. And then she gets home and the mom is yelling at her for because she left her clothes out. Like she didn't like put them together. And she kind of turns to her and goes like, was there never one day where you could come back home and like did and you everything you did right? Like you never made any mistakes. And the mom just goes like, my mother was a crazy alcoholic, and like leaves. There's so much trauma in there. And there's
Mhm.
so much of like them not wanting to meet halfway because of their own traumas, that it's very compelling because it's very human. Like that moment when she tells her mom like, what if this is the best version? I know exactly how that feels. I know exactly how she felt. I've been there. I've felt like that, and I tried communicating that to someone, and they couldn't help me. They couldn't tell me because they don't understand, because they weren't in that same position that I was and that Ladybird is.
Mhm.
And movies are empathy machines. These moments need to happen. And when I saw that moment, that's when I jump into the Greta bandwagon, and I haven't left, and I'm never gonna leave, just because she gave me that moment. And I took that stock and I took it to the fucking moon. So yeah, to me, it's moments like that just make the movie just elevate. And the movie's not long. It's like maybe like an hour and 40, maybe
No, it's a cup
less.
of coffee. It's an hour 32. It's a cup of
Yeah.
coffee. It's not long.
Yeah, and it's for a movie that's mostly just dialogue and interaction. And like, remember when I told you when we were talking about Barbie that I said like I liked the Barbie movie, but I feel like it needed more of those like sweet, sensitive moments that we saw in Ladybird. Now that you've seen Ladybird, do you know what I'm talking about? Like those
Yes,
like
the
moments.
slow
Yeah,
moments.
yeah. I mean, it's slow, but the movie never feels like it has you in like a headlock. Like you're on a ride and you're enjoying being on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
There's a lot of moments in this film that I think resonate. I know we've said it, but like they resonate because of how relatable they are.
yeah.
Um, I think there's, and maybe I'm wrong when I say this. I'm not a parent yet, so I can't
Yeah.
say for sure that I'm right or wrong in this one. It always seems like there's a lot of tension b between opposites. I mean, between like a son and his father or a daughter and her mother. It seems like those are the clashes. Whereas maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I can be totally wrong. Growing up, I always clashed with my father much more than I ever did my mother. But that's because of how we're both stubborn men. We're both very stubborn individuals. I'm right, you're wrong. Like, And there was a lot of relatability there watching her argue with her mother because I'm like, oh fuck, like I've seen this fight, I've seen this movie,
Yeah. Yeah,
I've been
and
there
it
in this
could be
fight.
of a yeah, and it could be of a very simple things. Like one moment they would fight about like college, next about feelings, and the next one about eggs. Like it was just go about everything.
But there's always tension, and the thing is even like I don't feel comfortable saying that the mom that was necessarily equipped to talk to her daughter about these things, because also the mom, like the mom and dad are stressed because and Lady Bird doesn't really like go along with this. Um, they're going through a very difficult economic time right now. Like they're probably blue collar working class, but the dad just lost his job. Um, and the mom's working doubles to keep the family afloat, and she's stretched very thin because she's working doubles. She's and she works at a mental health clinic, which folks
Yeah.
also folks, this is your mid-show reminder that love your pets, check them. If your pet's gums are very like pale, there might be a sign of tick disease, and get them to the vet ASAP so that way you know they're gonna be okay.
Jesus Christ.
He's gonna be fine. Ace is gonna be fine, but that's because we caught it early. He's
Okay,
taking
good.
meds that keep him involved. I'm sorry, I'm off track. That's as much of a parent as I am. It's my remains. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was talking about Greta's mom. So yeah, so folks,
Greta's mom.
yeah, I'm sorry, not Greta's mom, Lady Bird's mom. I'm sorry. But yeah, okay. So talking about Lady Bird's mother, the conflict there is, yeah, I'm not so sure if Lady Bird's mother is even equipped to talk to her daughter about the trauma, what she's going through, why she feels the way she does. Because one, she's exhausted from work, and that's fair. As someone who has come home after a 16-hour shift, yeah, it happens where you have a short fuse from time to time. Like, no one's perfect. Um, but also, it's easier to deal with other people's problems than it is to deal with yourself. It's very easy, I think, to be the shoulder for other individuals, but when it comes time for you to lay your head, that's hard. And it's especially hard when it's your daughter, and it's even harder when she is like you. And you fight, and your husband is saying, you two are so alike, and you want to murder him because you know that conversation has happened. And I love the dad in this because he he never takes a side. He's never against either one. He's never like, you listen to your mother, but he's also
Yeah.
never like, you're too hard on her. He's like, no, you two are so much more alike than you realize. uh, you guys are gonna have to work it out. You know, when that heartbreaking scene at the end where they don't talk, Lady Bird leaves the airport, the mother runs in and he holds her and she's crying. The mother walks in and the dad holds her and she's crying. He's like, she'll come back. Like
Yeah.
this is not the end of your relationship. Like this
Yeah.
was just a fight, and you're probably gonna have more of them in the future. Lord knows you've had them in the past, but it's gonna be okay. Uh,
Mhm.
I love that aspect. Maybe it's a better thing I saw when I was older because retrospect is 2020, and I watched this and I have so much sympathy for the mother in her position. I understand Ladybird, but I also understand where the mom's coming from. But let me ask you this: what do you think? How much of an impact do you think the fact that she had to go to a Catholic school kind of impacted like her outlook, how she treats people, like everything in general? Do you think that had a big
Ex-
impact?
Extremely. And Greta Gerwig mentioned that this happened to her. Like this is her teenage years. Like she also went to a Catholic school. Like this also happened to her. Her having her first boyfriend and him actually being gay, also part of the real story. Uh, Apparently, from what she mentioned, it happened more than once.
Oof.
So you know she has a wicked sense of humor about this, and yeah, no, the fact that it's a story about like growing up in that religious school, because look, teenagers are gonna rebel against anything that they're in. Okay, I personally know people that grew up not religious because their parents weren't religious, and then during the teenage years they were like, I'm gonna give Jesus a shot, like just to rebel against their parents, or because they were curious. Okay, everything we are curious about things that we don't know. So it's really interesting how she manages to include like stories about her in the religious school and her being against it, but her parents knowing that it's the best decision because of an incident that happened with her brother. And then also, but it's also like only a girls' school, so they have events where they like meet up with boys, and they have like these moments where like they have like a dance that is a mixer, so they're bringing like boys from another school, and they have this like cowboy themed dance, and then they're like she's dancing with Lucas Hedges, and then one of the nuns will just come up with like a ruler and be like, leave some space for the Holy Spirit, and just like leave them. And to be fair, these are not like abrasive, negative, chaotic, evil nuns. Like they're just nuns who are doing their job. There's even a moment where like Lady Bird runs this prank on this one nun by putting a just married sign on this nun's car. And then she calls her into her office and she's like, I'm sorry about the sign. He's like, okay, it's okay. It was funny. And,
She has a good sense of humor. She might be the
yeah.
best nun ever put to film.
Yeah, and she even goes, by the way, I wasn't just married. I've been married to Jesus for like a long time. And
About
then
40
Lady Bird
years?
even, yeah, about 40 years. And then Lady Bird even joins in on the joke. She's like, well, he's a very lucky man. Like it's like the movie's just chock full of like very funny and very sweet moments to like balance out the darkness of what's happening. And at the core of that, we haven't talked about this, at the core of that is Saoirse Ronan's performance as Lady Bird. This girl is my age, and she has 4 Oscar nominations. Like I cannot believe it. Like it's freaking insane.
The Lovely Bones?
I think no, I don't think Lovely Bones. No.
Pretty Women? Or Little Women?
So Little Women, Lady Bird, Brooklyn, and one more.
That's
I don't
right. She
remember.
plays an Irish person in Brooklyn. You know what was a
Oh
weird movie that
no!
she did?
Oh no!
Hannah.
No! She's Irish.
Oh, she's actually Irish?
She's actually Irish. Her
Dude,
accent is extremely thick.
her American accent is outstanding. I thought it would
It's
have been the other way.
perfect. Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Wow. And she's
Yeah.
Irish?
Yeah. She's like, yeah, she's from 94, I think. Yeah.
Jesus
So yeah,
Christ. So I think we've established who the new Meryl Streep is.
I think she's freaking incredible. Like every movie that she's in, she's so good in it. And I think this is like the performance that will like, follow her for her entire life because she's look, here's how human they got. During when they started filming, she started to get acne because she was like 18 or 19, I think.
Yeah.
And no, she was like 20, she was like 21, I think. And so she was getting like acne, and like the makeup people were like, well, we should cover it. And then Greta was like, no, keep it. She's a teenager. She's supposed to have it.
And she just
So
went with it.
her acne in the movie is real acne. And like, how often do you see that? That's fucking cool.
But see, I think Greta is a very I want to say unorthodox. She's very go with the flow. And it's like, oh no, it's a gift. Let's use it.
Yeah. Which is funny because she's very like tight controlling about her scripts. Like she allows little to no improv in the movie. So, but
Oh,
she's very she runs that shit like a boot camp. Like I think but in a fun way. Like there's a video that went kind of viral where she's directing the scene where Lady Bird and the first boyfriend are kind of like running around in the night at night, and then they like collapse in the floor. They're looking at the stars. That is a scene. There's a video of like her directing that scene, and she's having the time of her life. Like you can see, she's like, chase her, no, kiss her, yes, hug her, yes, fall, yes. Like she's running that shit like if she was narrating a soccer game. Like she's having a blast while doing it, and that translates into the mood of the movie.
you want to hear a slightly funny story from Barbie? It
Oh my
involves Margot
god,
Robbie and Greta.
yeah. Go ahead.
Apparently Margot. So you know she did I, Tonya. Maybe you told me this. No, Nikki told me
Yeah.
this. So Margot Robbie is obviously very adept at skating. She learned how to skate for I, Tonya. So obviously she was very adept at it when it came time for Barbie, right? So when she's on the rollerblade, she's good. She knows what she's doing. She was apparently her and Greta were both very annoyed with Ryan Gosling because he didn't take the time to learn how to rollerblade, so he was really shitty the whole time. He was learning on the fly, and they were like, "See, If a woman didn't prep, there'd be shit about it. You didn't prep, so it's funny, asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay, so we're talking about yes. So Lady Bird's performance, I it's insane. Maybe it was good that she was so young because I think the fact that she was so young lent more to the authenticity because you felt like a young teenager going through it, like because she's hitting the bird, she's hitting the hill
Yeah.
where you're starting your senior year, you're applying to colleges, you want to get the fuck out of your hometown, you want to get away from your parents, you want some independence, and she's trying to leave. And then she's having issues with her friend. She has two boyfriends. One of them turns out to be gay, which man, that scene broke my heart. Like I felt so bad for him because you saw he was crying, like, please don't tell anyone, like how scared he is.
Yeah.
And yes, it's not okay to lie. Like, but this poor kid is just begging because he doesn't know how to do it. And this is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Even nowadays, people freak the fuck out. And that's because there are laws. They're generally, I believe, people are more accepting. Like even at schools, I'd say from questions I've asked my niece and my nephews, kids don't give a shit. Like most
Yeah.
kids don't give a shit if you're gay, straight, bi. Who gives a fuck? Are you playing Roblox or what?
Yeah.
Uh, so, but I don't mean to make light, but so 20 years ago, it was terrifying, and I like that made me that hurt my heart because
Yeah.
also I would hope if that was my son, I hope he wouldn't be scared to tell me something like that. Then again, he goes to Catholic school, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Terrifying. And
yeah. But that
I'm glad you mentioned the two boyfriends thing because this movie's chock full of like those like two, like it's full of twos. Like it's got two boyfriends. She has two names. She
two
has two best
friends,
friends. Yeah, two semesters that we see her in school. She does two plays. There's two dances, two parties also. One with Kyle, one in the college. Two very distinct relationship with the parents. Two parents. Two potential colleges that she may get to. Two church scenes. Like it's just full of scenes of like those that duality, you know, that those twos, and you find yourself feeling a lot like that when you're in that transition between like high school and college, and in that way it's kind of hard to not relate. I saw it by the time like college was nearing its end, and I was feeling it. Like it was making me feel a certain kind of way. But if I had seen this when I was like I don't know 17 or 18, I think it would have also hit me really hard, but in a very different way.
yeah. Well, I think part of it is also like the duality of growing up because there
Mm-hmm.
are some hard truths that you gotta suck it up, kid. Um,
Yeah,
in one aspect, like going to college, sometimes your parents can't afford for you to go for the best college. What's it called for me? Like in our case, it was a given. You're going to STC and then UTRGV or UTP at the time.
yeah,
If the question ever came up, like, well, what if I want to go to Austin? Like, I have good grades. Yeah, you can go. How are you going to afford it though? And they shut that shit down real quick. Hey, I want
yeah.
to go to school in Washington. How are you going to afford it? Shut that shit down real quick.
You wanted to go
Um,
to school in Washington?
no, fuck no. Family members. But look, and I'll say this much, and this is just in regards to Lady Bird. There's a scene where they're looking at it. They're like, between the financial aid, the student loans, and if we refinance the house, we can afford it.
Yeah,
I just want to go on record and stating, folks, with all due respect, you never risk the house under any circumstances. You never risk the fucking house. You can get a shittier car. You cannot change homes. Do not risk the house under any circumstances. Um, there's even a point that I loved with the brother. He had his own like little mini storyline
yeah.
in the film where he has like he's working at a grocery store. He has all the shit on him, and Lady Bird pulls I don't want to say a bitch move, but she kind of calls him out and says, "No wonder you can't get a fucking job. Look at all the stuff you have on your face." And the
He
dad
looks
goes,
so hurt too.
and yeah, and then he goes, and dude, it made my heart hurt when I saw that him and the dad were both applying for the same fucking job.
Oh yeah,
And you see him, he took off all the jewelry, he has the tie, the dad helps him fix his tie, like go get him. Like he's proud of this
yeah,
boy.
Yeah.
And it's that grow up conversation that I think we need to have. Everyone needs to have at some point. Like, hey, you're done with college. It's time to step it up. Like, it's
Yeah.
no longer, oh man, I'm a free spirit of expressionism. Like, no, no, no. There are bills that have to get paid. There's
Yeah.
food for you. There's food that you need to buy.
Yeah.
Start growing up and figuring it out. Get your haircut. I was furious when I had to start working at the prison, and I had to cut my hair. I could feel the wind, and I fucking hit it. Folks, for those of you who don't know, I've always had my hair like medium to long for the first 24 years of my life, and then I had to have it buzz cut for about 4 years. So fuck that noise.
Yeah, it was gross.
Yeah, I
I'm
hate it.
so glad. I'm so glad you could have it long again.
Yes, and every time I
Yeah.
see my brother-in-laws, I just do this. They can't. I'm sorry. So,
Yeah.
well, what did you think about the brother? Also, I like the whole supporting cast. Like besides the mom, the
Yeah.
dad, and Ladybird, the supporting
So
cast is
there's
great.
there's the family, there's the brother, there's a brother's girlfriend who lives with them. And it's never explicitly said in the movie, but like we know through context that like the brother is adopted.
Yeah,
And yeah, and he's there and like his girlfriend lives with them. And I like what we have, like there's little scenes with like just between the parents, like there's a moment where they're kind of brushing their teeth, and then the mom goes like, do you think Miguel and the girlfriend, like, do you think they have sex when they're sleeping in the pull-out couch? And then the dad goes, of course they do. Like they have
yeah,
like those little moments. Like the dad really is like a very strong supporting character because he's very funny, but he's also like has a lot of like sentimental scenes. Like there's a moment where like when so she helps the dad helps her fill the financial aid stuff, and then but Lady Bird asks him like, hey, please don't tell mom, like let me just keep it a secret. And then she gets into a wait list, and so the mom discovers that like she did the application with like without telling her, and it's her birthday, and her dad comes up to her and brings her like a little cupcake and sings her happy birthday. And she know and Ladybird knows like her parents are fighting, so she goes like, are you and mom gonna get a divorce? And he's like, of course not, we can't afford it. Like
I love that.
it's like yeah, like he's chock full of like little lines like that, and it really captures like that. Like I like that there's a moment where like the mom and Ladybird are fighting, and they kind of walk into like another room, and the dad is just there, like he's playing solitaire,
Yeah,
by his other computer. He's like, and he just kind of like looks at her and goes like, Larry, what are you doing? It's like nothing, just like
what's up?
yeah, just
No,
like nothing.
oh my god, I remember having to have the fucking communal computer out in the open. I
Like the
hated it.
computer room,
I
yeah,
hate, I fucking hated it.
yeah.
Well, what's it called?
But then,
Yeah,
but then you also have like the friend, like played by Beanie Feldstein. You have the first boyfriend, Lucas, played by Lucas Hedges. You have Timothy Chalamet, of course, as a second boyfriend. You have like the other friend, Odeya Rush. You have the
oh,
father who's running the church, like the father who's running the play.
God.
Yeah, you have like all these supporting the nuns, like you have all these characters who are yeah, also there. They have like these really good moments. Odeya Rush plays the other friend, like the one that she's trying to impress.
Yeah,
She's the girl. Do you remember that other movie that we talked about once, the Cha Cha Real Smooth?
yeah.
Yeah, so she's in it. She was the childhood friend that she like kind of reunites with when he gets back into the city, and they like have sex once, and then she goes like yeah, we're not gonna do that
Oh,
again. And he's like,
yes,
come on, why? Like it's so
yes,
fun. Like
yes, yes. I remember
yeah,
that.
so that's her. So she shows up in like a lot of stuff. But yeah, this is the first time that I saw her. She was also in the Let It Snow movie, which I really liked.
Oh, fun fact. For some reason, Charchago Smooth is our most played podcast episode for some reason.
Makes sense. That's a hell of a great movie.
Yeah, but it's so random. Fair enough. Like I was like that one, not the blockbusters. Cha Cha Real Smooth.
I think it's because Nick is in it too. Like that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You're right.
it's more of us. Yeah. By the way,
But yeah,
did you watch this movie with her, or do you watch it by yourself?
I watched it with my three dogs.
Okay.
We were laying down. I was
Yeah.
eating a ham and cheese sandwich. I gave them each some chicken and watched the movie
Okay. All right.
with the finest waffle fries money can buy.
Oof. Were they racist waffle fries? No,
No, no,
sorry,
no,
homophobic waffle fries?
no, no, not homophobic waffle fries. They're from HEB
Okay.
because here
All right.
everything is
Yeah.
better. Um, but oh, I was gonna ask you, what did you
Yeah.
think? And I felt so bad, but it was such again another dumb little thing that I think helps the movie a lot. Julie's crush on the teacher when the play
Oh, yeah.
happens and she meets the wife that's pregnant, and you could just see the heartbreak on her face, like that should be me. It's like, you're just a baby. Like I don't know. There was something like old school about that. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember having classmates that had crushed on teachers.
Because he was so innocent. Like really, it was
And he wasn't creepy at all. And I'm thankful for that. They never were like,
yeah.
oh, like, call me when you turn 18 or call me when you graduate. He was never a weirdo. It was legit, like, fundamentally a good dude, which unfortunately nowadays are quite in short supply when it comes to male teachers.
Yeah. Also the teacher was played by David Wallace from The Office.
Yes, I noticed that too.
Which,
Like,
it's always
why?
funny to it's just always funny to just see a random office cast member just somewhere else. Like it's very random.
It throws me off
Um
whenever I see that.
yeah, actually there's a scene where like when they finish the play and like Julie goes to see like the teacher and he's there with his girlfriend and they like leave and then she gets heartbroken and she sits down and she sits next to the father who ran the whole play.
Yeah.
And I like how he has the like one where they're like in silence, and then the father just goes like, "They didn't get it." Like it's such like a frustrated artist thing to say. Just like they didn't get it. Like it's so like to this day, I use that picture as like a reaction image. Like when someone says something stupid about something, I just go like, "They didn't get it." Like it's
Damn it.
yeah.
Oh man.
Um
I'll say this much, man. Like when you did mention, and I even remember the line you were talking about, what if this is the best version of me? Because I remember the top 10 and I remember that line.
yeah.
And you always sang Greta's praises. And I remember thinking she's probably great, but maybe she's not my kind of director. Like there are great directors that I don't necessarily enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so glad Greta did Barbie because I guarantee you that's going to turn a lot more people onto her previous work.
Definitely. Like
Um,
definitely like she was popular between like people who care, like me, like the A24 heads and like the film Twitter people, you know.
yeah.
But I'm so glad that Barbie's gonna just exploit her and have people like see her and people have people discover Lady Bird and Little Women, you know. And maybe even her earlier talk core stuff, you know. One of my favorite movies of all time is a movie that she wrote and starred in but didn't direct. It's another movie called Frances Ha. It's like a little
Mhm.
movie in black and white. You can tell that and it's like imagine what happened to Lady Bird post college.
Mhm.
Like she's around 27, 28. That's probably what happens.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because
Man,
it's also based on like her life in a way.
yeah.
And but you get to see her straight from the source. Like you get to see Greta act, and Greta is like a joy to watch on screen. Like she's an amazing director. She's a joy to watch on screen.
Mhm.
So
I believe it. I believe
yeah.
it.
But Lady Bird, just circling back to it, man, I love it. Like to me, this is a perfect movie. Like really, like I don't have any flaws with it. Like it's not long. Like it keeps your attention. Like yeah, there's no action or anything, but like a story like this isn't needed. Like it's emotionally heavy enough and it's relatable enough. Now I know that not everyone is gonna think that, but I freaking adore this one. You know?
You're not wrong. This movie is not made for everyone, but it's very much made for anyone. Like if you want a
Mm-hmm.
nice nostalgia piece that's going to remind you of when you were younger and how stupid you were, I definitely recommend this. There's a scene, and I do want to bring some attention to it. This is the scene that I kind of mentioned earlier that maybe we won't understand it. This is more of a mother daughter scene
Yeah.
when Lady Bird has sex for the first time.
Oh
and
yeah.
her mother picks her up, and she just starts bawling, and her mother holds her. Like such a raw moment that I can imagine a lot of mothers and daughters shared in that instant. Again, I'm not a parent, but I am aware of people who have shared those moments. You know,
Yeah.
because it is a big deal, and that is something that even if you don't have the best relationship with your parent, when you talk about it and it hurts, like your first heartbreak, your first breakup, stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a powerful moment.
It's an incredibly human moment, and I'm so glad that it's captured in a movie like this, and that it's. And I like that this movie was not lost to time. Like it didn't came and went. Like it got nominated for a bunch of awards. Like and in my opinion, deserved to win a few of them. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a fucking travesty that Laurie Metcalf, who played the mom, did not win for Best Supporting Actress because that was her award. But then I saw Allison Janney with that fucking catheter in the trailer for I, Tonya, and I went, God, they're gonna give it to her just because she has a stupid haircut and that fucking catheter in her nose. I know it, and they did. They fucking did.
Best actress. I can understand uh Frances McDormand. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman for The Darkest Hour. I'm sorry, I can't argue with that one. Timothy Chalamet for Call Me by Your Name. Fuck off, Nepo. Um,
He's not a Nepo baby.
yes, his parents are filthy rich.
His parents are what? What? Eh.
Unless my sources are incorrect, yeah, he's like very well off financially.
Well, he's still. I still believe, and I'll say this. I'll say this like no irony included. I think he's a once in a lifetime generational talent, and so is Saoirse Ronan. So seeing the two of them work together in this, and then work together again in Lady Bird. I mean, in Little Women, it's great. Apparently, both of them were supposed to be in the Barbie movie, but they just couldn't do it because of scheduling. Because they've really become like Greta's children, like pretty much.
What's called? Let me see. Yeah, his father helped him get auditions for roles.
All right,
Um,
whatever. I don't care. I don't
yeah,
care. I don't care about nepo babies as long as they're good and they can admit that they got there through help.
I don't know if he ever has. Whatever. I have a thing against like the
Yeah.
kids of rich kids. I'm gonna hate my children. It's gonna
Oh
be
yeah.
interesting.
Well, you gotta be rich first, so you know.
Oh, that no, 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 no. But getting back to Lady Bird,
Yeah.
yeah, you're so I feel like this is a redundant question to ask you, but what was your grade for this film?
This is a 10 out of 10, bro. Like it's a fucking perfect movie in my eyes. Like I don't think to me like a movie like this, a movie like Your Name, Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse, Stuck in Love, like a movie like Don't Think Twice, Roma, Everybody Wants. So like these are not like my favorite movies of the year or like my favorite movies of the decade. These are my favorite movies ever. Like Lady
Mhm.
Bird is one of my favorite movies ever. Okay. And I think it's a movie that's going to stand the test of time. Like I think it's a movie that I don't know anyone who I know people who haven't seen it and they're like, white girl in a Catholic school. Like, why do I care? But after seeing it, they are transformed and they come in to the cult of Greta. So I welcome them with open arms because to me, this is a 10 out of 10. And yeah, it's not going to hit the same for everyone. But if somebody watches this and tells me that it's bad, man, they didn't get it. They didn't get it.
They're the
What do you think?
problem.
Yeah, what do you think?
Definitely an A movie. I don't see this as a movie that you can watch or that I would ever watch like just like randomly if it's on TV or something. But if it's
Yeah.
I feel like this is a movie where there has to be an occasion where it's like, hey, let me show you something. Like I feel like this is a movie I'm gonna end up showing my kids when they're older, you know,
Definitely a
someday.
movie that like yeah, it's kind of hit everyone differently and definitely a good coming of age one. Uh
Maybe the best one that I've seen in a long time. I can't remember the last time we had a great coming of age film. Maybe The Edge of
yeah.
17. Maybe.
It's funny that like when Edge of 17 came out, people were comparing it a lot to Lady Bird. Like that's the comparison that I heard the most. And I do think that Edge of 17 is a little bit more digestible. It's a little bit more like for all audiences. I think this one's a little tougher to chew. But I like both of them. I like both movies. But like, if I think of Edge 17, I go back to it probably because it was really immediate. Like it really went like it came out like a year after, I think. Yeah, or like a year before, I think. But yeah, so that's the big one. That's that one. Question. Now, after seeing this and seeing Barbie, do you want to watch Little Women? Like,
Fuck
are
it.
you be interested in
Next
that
week.
one?
Oh, you want to do it next week?
Last next week you want to do Turtles.
Oh, that's right. Turtles are coming out this week. All right, yeah, let's do Turtles first.
All right, sounds great.
Let's do
Because
Ninja Turtles.
I'm gonna see it. Oh, I'll tell you. I'll tell you after I finish. Yeah.
You're gonna watch it in double feature, aren't you?
What double feature?
Or like an IMAX or something.
No, I'll tell you after. Thank you for
Right.
joining us. Thank you for joining the rollback. My name is Chema.
I've been Eddie.
And this was the rollback. Signing off with a reminder to be kind to your parents. They're doing the best they can, unless they are a piece of shit. And in that case, actually don't look too into it, because then you're going to realize that their parents are a piece of shit and it's not their fault. And oh my God, it's just a cycle that never ends. Break the cycle. Don't have kids. Goodbye.
I got nothing.